Okay, so we begin in a dark and rain-soaked city, a perfect setup for the grim story that's about to unfold. Detective William Somerset, played by Morgan Freeman, prepares for his final week on the job before retirement. He's a seasoned, thoughtful cop, clearly weary of the endless cycle of violence. He gets a new partner, David Mills. Mills just transferred in, young and idealistic, eager to make a difference. Somerset already seems worn down, but still driven by some inner sense to try to solve a murder. A murder that would change the next 7 days. The film cuts to a crime scene. A morbidly obese man, face down in spaghetti, a bowl licked clean. Somerset observes quietly while Mills is visibly disgusted, calling the scene gross. Somerset notes a child's drawing taped to the refrigerator. Then comes the bombshell. The word gluttony is smeared behind the fridge. A connection is made, a link where none was apparent. Their captain doesn't want their big thinking, but Somerset, and now Mills, cannot simply ignore the clue. Do all this, after all, seems to have meaning beyond just the obvious brutal facts. Somerset is heading away. Mills, of course, has just arrived. We see what their lives are like apart. Somerset, clean, organized, chess, philosophy. Mills, just a guy, a basketball-themed tie with no sophistication, no planning, no strategy in his life or clothes. Somerset calls a former colleague at the library, and we begin to see what he's looking for. Knowledge to understand the twisted mind behind this first sin, gluttony. So they head to the next destination, to his new home, to meet his wife. Before this, the detectives' backstories is a quick introduction from their boss. Somerset gets the name, his reputation. Now it's Mills's turn. Then we're with Mills and Somerset, and before too long Mills' wife shows to bring them dinner. It's clear Mills and Somerset are about as different of people as they can possibly be. Somerset accepts a last meal, though. Some company, a few pleasant words with Mills and his wife in their small, dingy apartment. We see the stark contrast with Somerset's own apartment. He prepares to sleep with his metronome ticking. The image fading into Dante's Inferno. Tuesday morning, the detectives arrive at the new location to find one more victim. It's a prominent lawyer bound with a leather-bound book that has lines from the first murder and a piece of his flesh carved to a pond. The word greed was spread with the victim's blood on the ground. As Somerset inspects the crime scene, Mills, with his wife on his mind, realizes how little he's shared with his new partner and sets a dinner appointment with his partner. The review transitions to a subdued dinner at Mills' apartment, where Somerset meets Tracy, Mills' pregnant wife. The scene is a quiet interlude where the detectives share a meal and connect on a personal level, juxtaposed against the horror of the investigation. As Somerset leaves, we see that the seed has been planted. Will Somerset have it as his last case? Can someone like Mills fit in, with his pregnant wife, with the big city crime? I'm leaving you at this cliffhanger. Don't forget to hit subscribe. The detectives arrive at a dingy motel after a previous crime scene, walking through the dark grounds, the rain slick on pavement. Inside, they visit the victim's weeping widow, Mrs. Good, to examine photographs from the crime scene, looking for clues the investigators might have missed. Mrs. Good points out that one of the victim's paintings is upside down in the crime scene photograph, a vital observation that sends them racing to the victim's apartment. Arriving at the victim's apartment building, they discover some fingerprint evidence that requires lab analysis. Receiving the news that none of the latent prints match, they are again stumped. Back at the precinct, Mills' impetuous nature is evident as he questions how long they have to wait for things to get moving, while Somerset, at the end of his rope, reminds him that they need to divorce ourselves from our emotions. Leaving to look into the library's records, the detectives walk into what appears to be one of the city's many red light zones. Inquiring about the suspect, it turns out that a local informant has valuable information. Their suspect had come in on the same night they learned of what they are investigating. Now that Somerset and Mills are at the suspect's apartment the following day, the two officers move cautiously up the stairs, the scene quickly devolving into a chaotic shootout. Wounded but alive, Mills and Somerset move away from the scene. Inside the car, Mills is visibly upset as he continues to process what happened to a would-be victim and her child. The episode concludes with Somerset taking a different tack, suggesting they look into John Doe's past and where he studied the deadly sins. the pair depart for the local library as they are beginning